Mr. Brett Cowan, what do you have to say about projection?
Well, projection is simple. It's simply how loud you're speaking. So, I'm going to give you an example of proper projection. This is how you properly project. I'm talking loud enough so that you can hear me, but not too loud to the point where it's distracting, or not too soft to the point where you can't hear me. So, I will now give an example of being too loud. I am being way too loud. You can hear me perfectly, but it's distracting because of how loud I am. Now, I will give an example of projecting too softly. I'm talking way too quietly. I kind of seem scared because I'm talking quietly, and I don't even know if you can hear me. So, as you can see, projection can completely dictate your speech. And if you want people to respect you, and you want people to listen properly and to not be distracted, you have to project at a proper tone. Not too loud, not too soft. So that's basically all there is to projection. Just talk at a normal voice to the point where everyone can hear you. Oh, and lastly, it also depends on the size of the room you're speaking in. If you're speaking in a big room, you really want to project so people in the back can hear. But if you're talking in a small conference room, you don't really have to be as slow. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks.
I had was rate. Rate is the speed at which you talk. There are good examples and bad examples of rate, depending on the emotion you want to convey or the audience you're talking to. The audience I'm talking to now, I don't have any emotion in my voice, so there's no need for me to talk really fast or really slow. But if you're trying to convey a moment of laziness or a tired sense, then you want to talk slow. You want to sound slower than how you normally talk. But if you're excited, you might talk a little bit faster, so people can convey and understand the message you're trying to send. There are bad examples of a slow rate, like when you're just dragging on for time and everything gets slower. But there are also bad examples of speaking too fast, because no one can understand you when you're talking incredibly quickly. Fluency is how you connect your sentences and how all your sentences in general sound as a whole. For example, using ums, ahs, or ohs in the middle of your sentences or while connecting your sentences doesn't bring your sentences together and brings a lack of disarray and clearness into your speech. When you are speaking to someone and you sound a lot like you're absent-minded or you're not understanding everything, it makes it a little harder to follow you, and it's a little bit more of a distraction, because when someone is talking to you and you're saying ah, oh, ah, it's more confusing and hard to follow. And when you pause in the middle of sentences, it's even more difficult and distracting, because sometimes if you pause long enough or if you go on another tangent, your audience doesn't understand exactly what you're trying to move for. And that creates another issue of the audience not being able to stay with the speaker and the speaker losing the effect of the presentation as a whole.
Articulation is the process of forming certain sounds in speech. It's putting emphasis on certain parts of a word to make them stand out more. In public speaking, try and be engaging while using articulation. If you speak blandly and without any type of personality, you'll lose the engagement of your audience. Many musicians who play wind instruments or brass instruments have to actually warm up their face with different exercises so they can play different notes in different ways. Colin will now give you an example. Many stage performers and vocal speakers like to use warm-up exercises to improve their articulation. That can be anything from High School Musical, when Sharpay and Ryan do the ma, because that wakes up their voices and really accesses their lip muscles so they can pronounce things better. English language, where when you place the emphasis on a different word, it means something different each time when read out. Let's use a sentence, I didn't say she kissed him. Here we go. I didn't say she kissed him. 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 Each time that sentence means something totally different because of the emphasis placed on a different part. Articulation is a process of breaking down a word or a sentence into the particular sounds to convey a message stronger. It's like when your mom yells at you, be careful, or don't do that. They're really placing an emphasis on certain words to make the message mean something other than what it would normally mean without it.
Inflection. Inflection is, out of all the forms of talking, it is the most important because it attracts the audience. inflections where you have to pitch your voice. You know, if you see people, you know, talking, conversing, they rise their tones up and down. So when they're excited, they talk very fast, and like, you know, the pitch is very high. But when they're sad, their pitch is very, you know, depressed and, you know, not happy. It is important to know that when pitching a tone, you cannot emphasize things. So you just cannot emphasize.
What's up, y'all? Jay Rumble. Alright, so tone. Tone is a musical or vocal sound with reference to its pitch, quality, and strength. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you. It means that is basically how you present what you say. So, there are many different instances. You could say, hey man, I like your shoes. That's the right way of going about it. Or you could say, hey, I like your shoes, bro. Or, hey man, I like your shoes. Those last two were not good examples because you didn't say it right and it didn't match your facial expressions. Your tone is basically how fluently you say your words, and yeah, basically.
Jackson's going to give examples of tone, and every time he does it wrong, he's going to jump into the pool.
Hey bro, I like your sweatshirt. I like your shoes, bro. Hey bro, that's a nice haircut. Yeah, right, bro. So I hope we covered tone pretty well, but I'm gonna finish you off with the correct way of using tone. Hey man, I love those jeans. Where'd you get them at? Using tone like that is the perfect way to make your speech better. And now I'm gonna jump off just because I can. Boy, I